Hi, my fellow Americans. I'm Dr. Stephen Clark Bradley, and this is what I think. We're going to go into video number 2, and the theme and the idea of these videos is talking about who really is the real racist in this 2020 presidential election and congressional election, of course. And we're talking about Joe Biden, where he came from, what he wants to give to the country, and how he has sold his soul to socialism, to Bernie Sanders, to AOC. And we're going to move right on now and get into his career as a lifelong politician, literally, quite literally a lifelong politician. I don't think he's ever had another job, to tell you the truth. He cheated in college and got his law degree. That's been proven too. As a matter of fact, let me just mention to you something. You know, he was accused of plagiarism and found to be a plagiarist. He had to leave the election in 1987 when he was running for president because he plagiarized Neil Kinnock's speech that he gave. Neil Kinnock was the labor leader, a leader of the Labor Party in Great Britain at that time. And Joe Biden stole and plagiarized his speech and was found out, and he had to leave the election. And that right now, Joe Biden's theme or logo of his campaign is Build Back Better. And it's just come out that actually is Boris Johnson's message or theme of his program in Great Britain. He must really love Great Britain. He likes to plagiarize their stuff. So I mean, now actually the theme that he's using called Build Back Better is not even his either. It belongs to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Britain. Unbelievable. The guy can't think. Even when he was young, you know, he had early onset senility, I think, back then. Now he's got the whole deal. He's soaked it all in, totally senile. So this guy he's not responsible. The man is not intelligent. The man is not honest, and he cannot be elected our president of the United States. So let's talk about his career. Let's go all the way back to 1973. Oh, that was a long time ago. In 1973, I think I was 14 years old, but I still love politics. And I remember Joe Biden very much at that time. And unbelievably, he was a very good friend of George Wallace in 1973. Do you remember who George Wallace is? Let's just kind of talk about this because many of you out there are too young to recall that. Being young is a good thing, so don't regret it. George Wallace was the former governor of Alabama, and this man was a diehard and 100% rigid racist and segregationist. On his first inaugural speech in Alabama as their governor, he's very famous of saying these words. George Wallace said, "I say, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." I'd say he's pretty much can be declared to be a segregationist, to hate black people. Amazingly, later he was almost assassinated. He was shot running for president and became paralyzed, and he totally repented of his segregationist ways. And his last term in office, he did from a wheelchair and was thoroughly voted into office by African American people and begged for their forgiveness and asked God for his forgiveness and admitted where he was wrong. So it can be done, but he was sincere. But at this time, Joe Biden and George Wallace were excellent friends. George Wallace said of Joe Biden in 1973 that Joe Biden is one of the outstanding politicians in America. Why would he say that? Unless Joe Biden was a segregationist himself, which he was, totally was. In 1975, Biden said that Biden sided with the racist and segregationist and with the Jesse Helms also to stop. Let me read this to you. He joined up with Jesse Helms, a former segregationist. Yes, he did. And they worked together. And they worked together to strip the federal government's power to withhold fundings from school districts that refuse to comply with racial equality measures. Let's put that in real English. Together with Jesse Helms, Joe Biden worked together with him. Jesse Helms was a dyed-in-the-wool segregationist and racist. He worked with Jesse Helms to end the possibility that the government could withhold money from states that refused to let black people into schools. Yeah. Laws had been passed to force schools to open up for all races. And for those schools that, in the legislation, for those schools that refused to follow the law, they would not receive any funding from the government. Joe Biden and Jesse Helms fought that and won. And therefore, many black people were not allowed to go to the school of their choice. The Democrat Party still fighting school choice. Donald Trump is 100% for school choice. Every American should have the right to put their kids in the school of their choice. And they should also have it, Donald Trump, and I agree, and I'm sure you will too, tax credits. You should be given tax credits that you can use that money to put your child, in the school of your choice. The Democrat Party doesn't want it. Joe Biden doesn't want it. And in 1975, he didn't want it. And he fought it. Unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Back to George Wallace for a minute. At one point in Joe Biden's early career, in 1973, he said the Democrat Party needs a liberal George Wallace. Someone who's got the guts to stand up and say what is not popular and to be disliked. Can you believe that? He wanted to be like George Wallace. You know what? And he was. He was. And you know what? He still is. He's still against school choice. He still wants to deprive you, if you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you're white, anybody, to put your child in the school of your choice. Today in our school systems across America, so many minority children are locked into terrible schools. If we could do what Donald Trump wants and what you want and be given tax credits off your taxes that you can use that money to put your child in a school of your choice, it would end the nightmare of poor education for your children. What do you do when children get a bad education and they can't get a good job and they work in a bad job for a little bit of money, and then someone comes along to them and says, you know, why are you working in that little place for that little bit of money? Come on, go sell these drugs. Go do this, and I give you that much more money. That's a hard choice to say no to if you have no other options. We need to give people options. Joe Biden doesn't want to give you options. He's limited African American people's options since he was elected to Congress in the early 70s. Doesn't care about you. He doesn't. He wants to limit you and wants to take away your right to have a better life. I'm proving it right here. You know, the Democrat Party did have and does have a liberal George Wallace. His name is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a liberal George Wallace because he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care, and especially if you're a minority, he wants to keep you poor. He wants to keep you down. He wants to keep you depressed. He wants to keep you so that you have to depend on the government. But don't worry. If he's elected, every person from every race in America will be in the same boat together. Yeah, at least it will make us all equally poor. I believe in equal prosperity, not equal poverty. How about you? That's the name of socialism. Equally poor. Nobody rising above, and nobody getting a better chance. In October 12th of 1975, excuse me if I'm looking at my notes, there's a lot of information here, and I want you to have it all. Joe Biden thanked many different racists, and especially Jesse Helms, and for helping him to defeat the desegregationist policy of busing. Now, there are people on both sides who didn't like busing. A lot of blacks didn't like busing either. But the goal of busing was right. It was seeking to make sure that everybody could go to equally good schools. But it was defeated by Joe Biden. This is what he said, okay? This is a direct quote from Joe Biden on October 12th, 1975. He said, "The pro-bussers and the civil rights lobby were dumbstruck, although I had put them on notice months earlier," said Biden in an interview. "I think I've made it possible for liberals to come out of the closet." In other words, I've made it possible for those who call themselves liberal to fully admit that they are racist and segregationists. If anti-busing isn't yet respectable, a respectable liberal position, it is no longer a racist one. See, the man is a racist. And how can you call yourself a lover of equal rights when you're willing to talk like that about minorities who just need a little help to rise above? And he squashed them down. The Democrat Party does have a liberal George Wallace. His name is Joe Biden. And here he said, also in 1975, Biden told the Philadelphia Enquirer, referring to racist then Alabama Governor George Wallace. This is what he said about George Wallace. All right? This is Joe Biden, who wants you to think that he's some liberal messiah and going to take you from down to straight up to prosperity. He's a liar. This is what he said. He said, I think the Democrat Party could stand a liberal George Wallace, someone who's not afraid to stand up and offend people, someone who wouldn't pander, but would say what the American people know in their gut is right. So in his mind, and it still is, it's right to keep black people down. It's right to deprive black people of equal rights in education and prosperity. It's right to keep African Americans dependent upon the Democrat Party because they know it's only right for them because that's how they keep votes. You want to know what's right? It's right to vote for Donald Trump, who wants to take away all that has ever happened to you. He wants to take it away. He wants to give you a new life. He wants to give you prosperity. He wants to give you something great. The right to plan your future. The right to give your kids the best education. That's right. But it's not right to keep people down. These are Joe Biden's friends. These are the people that he loves. These are Joe Biden's friends, okay? He doesn't love you. He only loves power. Don't listen to him. And then in 1977, here we're talking about Joe Biden when he made the statement about he did not want his kids to go through busing. He didn't want his kids together with black students because he didn't want them to have to go into a racial jungle. He didn't want to create a racial jungle of our schools. How can that be? How can you take that back? You know, even back then we didn't have videos, but we had print. And it's all documented. As a matter of fact, here's a statement straight from Joe Biden in 1977. Biden said, "Unless we do something about this, my children are going to grow up in a jungle. The jungle being the racial jungle with tensions have been built so high that it's going to explode at some point." By denying you or anyone the right to better yourself, by denying your children a better future, by denying anyone in America from being totally equal in their rights, that creates tension. But it's his intention to create tension. It is. They intend for it. By creating tension, they can keep racial problems alive. Come on, man. That's what he says all the time. Come on, man. He doesn't care about you. Everybody knows. These people out there, the Jesse Jacksons and all of them, they keep racial tension alive. That's their business. They make money off of it. They do. They make money. Donald Trump's business is giving you your rights. He's not giving the rights to you. He's allowing you to have what is already yours. The Democrat Party deprive you of the rights. They don't give you rights. They only can try to deprive you of them. They can't even take them away. They still belong to you, to me, to all of us. They just try to prohibit you from expressing your right and benefiting from your rights. It can't be allowed. Joe Biden thinks because you're black and because you're in school with his children, you will create a jungle, a racial jungle. Still want to vote for him? You still think he's some savior that can save our children from a terrible future? He will only lock people in and dig them deeper into a hole. Donald Trump has been trying to liberate us. Together with you and me, we can re-elect Donald Trump and we can make America equitable, free, honest, and fair. I am here with you right now to say you've been treated unfairly, but it has been done. You'd like to say it's the Republican Party, but it's not. I don't like the Republican Party either, okay? I am not a Republican. I'm an American. But I will not let the Democrats blame on the Republicans what they have planned and executed themselves to keep everybody down, especially African Americans. You have a chance to go out and vote for someone who truly loves you, truly cares about you. Donald Trump looks at it, when you succeed, he succeeds. If you fail, he fails. Because he's one of us. Isn't that the kind of leader that you want to have? Someone who really cares about you? Who really wants you to prosper? Joe Biden doesn't want you to prosper. He wants you to fail. A couple more before we go to our next video. Another one of Joe Biden's great friends was James Eastland. James Eastland was called the godfather of the Senate. He was a terrible racist, an evil racist. This man, he just hated black people. All right? And from 1972 until 1977, Joe Biden wrote several letters, friendship letters, to James Eastland. He was a racist, a bigot, and a segregationist. And so was Joe Biden. Birds of a feather flock together. Believe me. And here's what he wrote to James Eastland. Joe Biden wrote this. I want you to know that I very much appreciate your help during this week's committee meeting and attempting to bring my anti-busing legislation to a vote. He worked with racists, segregationists, to pass a bill that would stop the busing, which would stop bringing black and white children together in schools so that his children wouldn't have to go to a school that became a racial jungle. This is Joe Biden, man. I mean, seriously. This gives you a better taste of who he is. James Eastman owned a plantation. James Eastman believed blacks were inferior to whites. James Eastman forcefully fought for segregation throughout his career. And he was a Democrat lawmaker from Mississippi, and he was one of Joe Biden's best friends. As we go into our third video, we'll continue this. But it's eye-opening, is it not, to see who we have a chance to vote for and who we should not. Gotta vote for Trump, guys. He's the only thing gonna change our lives. Thank you very much. God bless.